Welcome to the Family Bible Journey. If you're interested in seeing how the journaling that we mention in the podcast works, check out our website at familybiblejourney.com or look for us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening. This is episode 423, season 1 of the Family Bible Journey Old Testament podcast. Today looking at Proverbs chapter 26. The title of today's podcast is Only Fools Trust Fools. In our key verses for today, the entirety of the 26th chapter of the Proverbs, where we read, Like snow in summer or rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. Like a sparrow in its flitting, like a swallow in its flying, a curse that is causeless and does not alight. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of fools. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. Whoever sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. Like a lame man's legs, which hang useless, is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like one who binds the stone in the sling is one who gives honor to a fool. Like a thorn that goes up into the hand of a drunkard is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like an archer who wounds everyone is one who hires a passing fool or drunkard. Like a dog that returns to its vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. Do you see a man who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. The sluggard says, There is a lion in the road, there is a lion in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. It wears him out to bring it back to his mouth. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. Whoever meddles in a quarrel not his own is like one who takes a passing dog by the ears. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I'm only joking. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. As charcoal to hot embers and wood to fire, so is a quarrelsome man for kindling strife. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels that go down into the inner parts of the body. Like the glaze covering an earthen vessel are fervent lips with an evil heart. Whoever hates disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred be covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts it rolling. A lying tongue hates its victims, and a flattering mouth works ruin. This is the word of the Lord. So as we mentioned a few episodes back, we are hearing in this section of the Proverbs many of the earlier Proverbs being repeated. And as the text said itself, the scribes of King Hezekiah, it seems, went through the Proverbs and maybe collected even other Proverbs of Solomon that maybe had been lost in the archive and records them here in this particular chapter of the Proverbs. And so it makes sense that some of the earlier Proverbs are being repeated. And this, it may seem foreign to us, but this is a common occurrence in ancient and biblical literature. Take the book of Deuteronomy, for example. You have 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Moses pretty well lived through all the events of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, but in Deuteronomy, he summarizes the entirety of those earlier 3 books, and it's like his last will and testament. He puts everything in order. He lists the important things so that God's people would not forget them when he was gone, because Deuteronomy was delivered basically as a final will and testament of the prophet Moses. And so this convention of repeating earlier sayings, maybe even sometimes modifying them, tweaking them a little bit, it isn't because there is any sort of contradiction in these words, but rather this is how the ancients would highlight the most important things. We're used in our Western mindset of a paper, a presentation, or hopefully a thought out sermon, having some sort of an order or an outline. And most common in our day and age is an introduction, 2 to 4 points, followed by a conclusion. And as they used to say in homiletics class, you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. This is kind of how we are used to receiving information. And we see a little bit of this ancient practice of repeating the most important part. And this is certainly what this portion of Proverbs is all about. And a couple of the Proverbs that we see, I have some notes on. I want to share with you in this episode before we get to the end of our time. First, verse 8, it says, "Like one who binds the stone in the sling is one who gives honor to a fool." To bind a stone in a sling would mean literally to tie a rock in the pouch of an ancient sling. So you could spin it, but if you whipped it, it's not going to go anywhere. It's guaranteed not to hit the mark. And it's very highly likely that it is going to come back and strike you, oftentimes in the head, neck, or face, which doesn't sound like a good time to me. But this is what the writer of this proverb thinks of those who honor fools. We also hear in verse 10, like an archer who wounds everyone is one who hires a passing fool or a drunkard. In an ancient warfare, it wasn't easy always to distinguish on the field of battle who were friends and who were foes. Matter of fact, this is something that is a really big deal for modern militaries with the tremendous firepower at their disposal. We want to make sure that we're firing our weapons at the bad guys, not the good guys. And here in this proverb, hiring just anyone to do a job, trusting those who are not trustworthy, is as foolish as shooting an arrow onto a battlefield without aiming it, without knowing what the intended target is. And this is tremendously damaging for the home team and actually something that the other team appreciates because we end up wounding our own, causing ourselves harm and benefiting the cause that we say that we're fighting against. And so for those who are in business, those who are in management, those who are entrepreneurs, or those who own businesses, this is good advice for us to follow, because I would suggest that if not the most important thing to ensure the success of any organization, business, nonprofit, church, or otherwise, is who you hire. If you get the right people, things will tend to work themselves out. If you hire the wrong people, everything is going to be a struggle and a challenge. And so there is great wisdom here in this chapter. I do have verse 20 highlighted where it says, "For lack of wood the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases." And we all know that old saying, "Sticks and stones can hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me." The truth in that statement is that words don't just hurt us, they can actually kill us, our relationships. They can kill morale. They can take an entire organization down. And so if you are somebody who works in leadership in an organization, and I would say particularly like the church, where you have many volunteers that are serving, there are unfortunately some who are going to want to serve that love to do it because they want to be in the know so that they can make others in the know. And there are people who tend towards idleness and gossip, oftentimes employed in churches. And we want to make sure that we're hiring the best candidates, not just warm bodies. Because when you put a warm body in a chair, they're going to bring something to bear on your organization. And that something isn't always awesome. And so we want to make sure that we are aware as to how people are speaking, who it is that keeps confidence, protecting those that we are called to serve, and honoring them. And when we do, they in turn are likely to honor us. And then the last proverb I want to highlight, verse 27, it says, "Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts it rolling." Is this a consolation prize, or is this the basis of our confidence as godly people when others conspire against us? I'm going to let you consider that yourself. Not answering that question, but rather giving you opportunity to reflect on it in your own life and to find your hope and comfort in this truism expressed in this proverb. If you appreciate this podcast as a part of your daily routine and would like to become a monthly sponsor so that others are blessed as you are by the podcast, go to FamilyBibleJourney.com to learn more. Sponsorships are tax deductible and cover our operating expenses like hosting and the services that make this podcast work. Our blessing for today. May you surround yourself with wise and faithful friends who will build you up rather than the fools who tear people down. Amen.